with James Kirklin. Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical.
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that person?
Informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do. Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirklin. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirklin. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirklin. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
All right, what's up? What's up? What it do? It's time for another episode of the Hey, Deborah Christopher, how are you? What's up? How y'all doing? Thank you for tuning in tonight to another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirklin. Thank you, like I said, once again for tuning in. Once you come in, if you would do me a favor and go ahead and share this thread, and then after you share it, just type in the comments shared, and also hey, what's up, Alicia, how are you? Once you share it, after you share it on your Facebook page. Hey, tell people, say, put a little endorsement and say tap in or something, but then type shared, and then I'll shout you out from here. And that's just me being appreciative to you for helping me promote our brand. So we're trying to get the word out, and the only way we can do that is if you all help us to do that. So if you would, like I said, come in, type share it first, and then type shared. Share it first, and then type shared. Today is August the 5th, 2023. It has been 1 year exactly since one of the proudest days for me in American history, the Montgomery Brawl, where we actually fought back. And we, yeah, that was a great day, man. You're talking about a brother smiling. I smiled big on that day, man. Real big. And everything that transpired after that, man. I mean, of course, I didn't want to see the lady get hit in the head with a chair. I get all that part. But when those people had the unmitigated gall and the audacity to jump on this man for doing his job, that was a very weird situation for me. And people weren't going to take it. They tried to jump somebody, and this time they met their match, and that's what they get. I mean, that's what they got, and I'm cool with it. Thank you, Alicia Milton, for sharing that. And happy belated birthday to you. I see you enjoyed. You turned, what, 25, 26? Happy belated birthday to you. Everybody else, come in, do me a quick favor. Share it right quick. Then once you share it, hit the like or the love. But I prefer love. But if you only like it, that's cool. Share it, love it. Let me know where you're listening from. And we're going to get into this conversation on tonight in just a few minutes. We're going to get into this conversation. I am doing the show with a heavy heart tonight because my little sister is 22. I hear you. My little sister, 34 years old, is no longer with us. She's no longer with us. She passed away on last Thursday night. And I've struggled with that. My therapist is teaching me that Miss Milton, and I know that's your background, that once I feel an emotion, to immediately identify that emotion. Appreciate you, Miss Christopher. But as soon as I feel a certain emotion, I try to recognize that emotion and put it and identify it, right? And I'll talk about that later tonight. How every negative. Hey, what's up, Cuzzo? Tanisha Mizik. Every negative emotion, every emotion needs a body, but especially a negative emotion, right? So when they come up, I have to process what to do with those emotions. And I've had several emotions come up in the last few days. I've had anger. I ain't gonna lie, I got angry with God. I'm like, why? Her 34 years old, 3 children. Her story, her life script was still being written, and she had a long way to go. And I felt some type of way. So I felt anger. I felt regret because I left home at 23. I was 29 years ago. So she was 5 years old when I left. So we didn't have the sibling relationship like a lot of siblings do. But, a lot of us aren't 18 years apart. But that's where we were. But I thought we always had time. So when that happened, it messed me up. Y'all coming in, do me a favor, share this thread. We're going to get into the meat of the matter in just a few minutes. Y'all know, like I said, I'm talking about emotions and how to manage emotions and think. Thank you, Kenbria. How to manage emotions. Because hear me when I say this. Mental health is our focus now. We started doing that about a month and a half ago. About a month and a half ago. And if you missed last week's show, let me hold on. I had Nicole on, and Nicole did a very good job, and I appreciated her for coming on. But let me show you a quick clip of what Nicole and I did. I told a friend of mine day before yesterday. That's when you get to a place of solitude. But you know why a lot of y'all don't ever get to a place of solitude? Because you're too afraid to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes a lot of y'all don't ever get to really hear that small voice that God speaks. He does speak. He speaks. And the sheep know the shepherd's voice, and the stranger will not answer. But you can't hear it because you're looking for the wind, and you're looking for the earthquake, and you're looking for the fire. But the testimony, God testified through the fire. He said, I'm not in the fire. I'm not in the earthquake. I'm not in the wind. I'm speaking prophetically now. Somebody's catching what I'm saying. You catch it. But he says, I'm in the smoke. When I get angry, I don't get loud. I get quiet. My son played for a baseball team. All right. So that was a little small clip of what, if you missed last week's show, we dealt with when you don't produce, I forgot what it was. When life leaves you limited. When life leaves you limited, because Hannah was unable to bear children. She was infertile. She suffered from infertility. So, and so many of us are like her, not necessarily when it comes to having children, but in our personal lives, we're non-productive. We're not producing what we desire to produce, and because we're not producing what we desire to produce, it causes us to feel barren in a sense. But as I shared last week, and if you want to go back and watch it, just because you haven't produced also means you haven't produced yet, right? So you only barren until you produce, and all of us at some point we can just got to go through the process. Got to go through the process of time. Now, listen, I got Kimbria here. Hey, Nobi, Marshman Couch, how you doing, Kimbria? That's all my folks. So listen, we're gonna stay on this mental health vein tonight, and in the spirit of what's transpired in my life over the last week and my family's life, I wanted to deal with a particular subject matter on tonight. And if you all will pray with me and you'll help me, I'm going to try my best to make my way through this. But what I want to discuss tonight, let me see if I can find, there it is. I want to discuss when prayer seems to fail. I made that banner too big, didn't it? So y'all can't see my face. So let me close it. I'm gonna do better. When prayer seems to fail. And when I first put this thought out, of course I got, the saints gave me a call. The saints wanted to, well, prayer don't never fail and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, you don't know me very well, do you? Because I'm always gonna give you a converse thought, something. I'm going to back the car into the garage. I'm not going to pull straight in, because I don't want to give it all away in the beginning. Of course, I don't think prayer fails. I'm not crazy. I do not think that prayer fails. But if you listen to what I said when prayer seems to fail. Yeah, I feel you on that. And Tanisha, you know what? You're not the only one. If we're human, but we got so many super saints, we so saved and on our way to heaven and enjoying the trip, and we don't have any wounds, we don't have any pain, we don't lose sleep. I mean, everything is so great, grand, and wonderful. But isn't it funny that when Jesus got off of Emmaus Road and met the disciples in that room, that the first thing one of them asked him is if he could show them there. He said, I ain't gonna believe, Lord, unless you show me the nails in your hand. I'm not gonna believe unless you show me the piercing in your side. Jesus said, you need to see it. Here it is. There it is. There the wounds are. That's the proof that I've gone through what I've gone through. And so many times we want to act like we're immune to struggle and immune to trouble, to trials and tribulations. All we want to advertise is the triumphs. But isn't it funny that Jesus came in advertising his wounds, and it's by his wound. No, I ain't gonna get into all that. That's a whole nother subject. But sometimes it does feel like prayer fails. Sometimes it feels like we missed the mark. Sometimes it feels like, why are we going through this? If we're going to go through the storms and the rains and be affected by those things, why am I going through it? But it happens. She said, not me. I used to say, I'm every time. Okay, hold on. Oh, here we go. Yeah. She said, not me. I used to say, I'm okay every time someone asks, was I okay? Now I say I'm not. And it gets to, and that's okay. That is so okay to get to that point. It is so okay to get to that point. And in life, there are times where it feels like prayer isn't working. That's just being 100% transparent. And as we consider our lesson for the night, I specifically chose this particular lesson. If you got a Bible, go get you one. If you don't have one, I promise I'll try my best to make it plain as possible. Hey, T-Tan Renee. Hold on. Don't tell me my computer want to start acting up on me. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right. So let me put this scripture up. Listen, if you have not shared this, I'm going to ask again. I don't like begging, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want you all to do it. Let me lock the screen because this thing keeps on moving away from me. It keeps moving away from me. Why does it do this? It was all up just a moment ago. All right, here it is. Let me pull up. Good evening, Charlotte. Let me find this scripture for you all. I had it up just a second ago, and all of a sudden now the devil won't. Well, I ain't gonna blame it on the devil, but it ain't. Listen, something worked because it ain't up right now. There it is. Boom, got that one. All right. So if I was in church, I'd say if you have your Bibles, go with us. I'm using my preacher voice. Go with us to the book of 2 Samuel. And I'm gonna need to talk back church tonight too. 2 Samuel, right? And we're gonna look at chapter number 12. Chapter number 12. Chapter number 12. And if you're here, say hello. Let me know where you're listening from. And let's get this started. Let me lock this computer, lock this thing so it won't move. No, so it won't move. There we go. Lock. Boom. All right. Now it won't move on me anymore. Share it and like it. Okay. And let me know you're here. And we're gonna get started. Just 1 second. Now our teaching context. What's up, Nicole? You like your preacher voice? Yeah, I do have a whole different voice for real. We need to start being honest when people ask how we're doing. That is so true. We're gonna get into that tonight. But real talk, let's get into this text. 2 Samuel, chapter number 12. And we are looking at really we're gonna kind of deal with the whole text, but I mean the whole chapter, but I'm only going to read a couple of your verses in here. If I don't see your comments, that's because I can't read them because I'm doing too much, okay? All right, so we're going to get started with verse number 15. Verse 15 says, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare. Bible students know when I say Uriah's wife, where I'm going with that, right? Uriah's wife, appreciate you, Lori. Uriah's wife bare unto David. Somebody else's wife bore a son to David. I'm trying to cut my phone off. All right. Then after that, verse number 16 says that David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. That's verse number whatever it is. I think I got the verse written wrong. Whatever, 16, but it's supposed to be 16. I said 17. All right, 17. I said 18. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with him. Well, did I go too far? Okay, I wanted to stop at the other verses, man. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night up on the earth. Lay all night. Let me read it again. Verse 15 said, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. Talking about the child. Therefore, David besought God for the child, and David fasted. He prayed, right? And went in and lay all night upon the earth because he was fasting for the child. Now, understand, let me give you the context. In this text, David is fervently praying for God to spare his son's life because his son was very sick. And the Bible says that when he was sick, the sickness was struck unto him by the Lord. The Lord struck him with sickness. Why? Now understand what happened. The prophet David is king now. After going through all he had gone through, he's the king. And the prophet Nathan visited King David to give him this prophecy. And what he says is, and the Lord sent Nathan unto David. And he came unto him and said unto him, and this, let me summarize it. He said, there was a city, and there were two men in this city. One man was rich, the other man was poor. Now, it says the rich man, y'all know the story, talk to me, and y'all talk to each other, however, the rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds. But, somebody say but, type but in the comment, but the poor man had nothing save one little lamb, now, which he had brought up and nourished, and it grew up together with him, with his children, and it did eat of his own meat and drank of his own cup and lay in his bosom and was unto him as a daughter. In other words, you got one man who has many flocks and many herds. Then you got a poor man that only has one little ewe lamb. Now, this man has a whole lot. This man doesn't have anything. But let me tell you how the story goes on. It says, there came a traveler. And the traveler came to the city. And when he came to the city, the rich man, now, remember what I just told you. The rich man had what? Whole lot. Poor man only had one. But what the rich man did when the traveler came through is he went to the poor man and took the one lamb that he had and dressed the lamb and cooked the lamb and served the lamb for the man, the traveler that had come in. Now, this made David mad. I'm going to say it like we said in this world. This pissed David off. It upset David. And David was so angry, and because David had the power, David could speak and a man would be sentenced to death. David, he was the dude, man. David was the man. So David wanted to have the man killed, and everything that was taken from the poor man, David wanted to restore the poor man. But the prophet had to let him know, with David, you're the man. You're the one that has taken. You're the one that had many flocks. You're the one that had many herds, but you chose to overlook your herd and take something from somebody who only had one. What did he take? Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I anointed thee king of Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hands of Saul. I gave thee thy master's house. I gave thee thy master's wives. I gave thee the house of Israel and Judah. And David, if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto you such and such thing. In other words, David had everything, but he wanted more. Does that sound like does that sound like anybody you know? Huh? Does that sound like anybody you know? God bless you with everything that you need, but rather than being satisfied with your needs, he'll turn around. Then you start feel like you're missing something, so you start forgetting about your needs and start being concerned about your wants. David had everything. He had cars. I know I'm not really talking about metaphor. I'm not talking about real cars. He didn't have like engines and all that kind of stuff. But David had cars, chariots, cash, crib, any concubine. David had everything he wanted. But guess what? He wanted what somebody else had. And because he did want, that's the human way. Say it again. Now you're the therapist, so she said that's the human way, a desire for more. And what some therapists call it is the more mentality, right? Now, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, see, we start talking about, because everybody wants to get to the point of self-actualization, right? But until you really know who you are, your self-actualization, and until your physical needs until your physiological needs are met, then it's hard to reach the rest of your needs. So it'll have you kind of grasping for straws, wanting stuff that's irrelevant, right? Okay, that's not really where I'm trying to go. So anyway, the prophet Nathan said, talking to David, wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? Because what had happened was, let me break it down. Tita and Renee, what had happened was David stepped out on his rooftop one night. And when he stepped out on his rooftop, he looked over the rooftop and he saw a woman by the name of Bathsheba. He didn't know her name at that particular time, but he looked at her and he liked her. And because when you operate with positional power, then people have a way of bowing down to positional power. Not necessarily, and it isn't always that they necessarily respect you. They just respect the position, and because they respect the position, they respect your positional power, and that gives you some type of authority over that individual and that individual's life. Now, because he was the king, he could have anybody he wanted. And the sad part about it, he had his master's wives, which were many. He had concubine, all these wives, as Tita and Renee said, he had many wives and whatnot. But he had everything, but he still wanted more. Because when he looked over his rooftop and he saw this woman, he sent for her. And then he laid with her. Type bad move. That was a bad move. It was a bad move because she already had a husband, and her husband's name was Uriah, and Uriah was already on the front line fighting for David and their country. But while he's out fighting, David is stealing because David has taken her, has laid with her. And guess what? Y'all know he got her pregnant. So what David tries to do is he tries to clean up what he messed up by sending Uriah home to be with his wife. So what? He could put the baby on Uriah. I'm going to get into this mental health in a little while. I'm just giving y'all context, right? So, but the problem is when he sent Uriah home, because he's, because if a man, real man, if a man has been out to war, or if a man has been away from home for an extended period of time, and he comes back home, probably one of the first things he's gonna want to do is get with his wife. And if they get together, y'all know what's probably gonna happen. They probably, I called it last week, I called it the beast with two backs. I ain't gonna call it that tonight. But they'll probably have relations. That's what I say. I think that's a diplomatic way of saying it. They'll probably have relations, right? And if they have relations, then if it's within a certain period of time, she became pregnant, then Uriah might think or assume that it's his baby. But Uriah didn't go because he didn't think it was fair. And I got to give Uriah credit for that. He didn't think it was fair for him to be enjoying his wife while his brethren were enduring war. All right. So finally, David set him up to be killed by sending him to the front lines. And after he did this, guess what? Mission was accomplished. Afterwards, he took Bathsheba to be his wife, and they raised their son. But let me drop this one on you for free. Anything that's done in the dark has a way of making it to the light. For real talk. Your parents tell us all the time, all right, you think you can hide something all you want, but whatever you do in the dark has a way of making it to the light. And anything that we do, we can do it all we want, think we got away with it. We might get away with it with man, but if we believe God to be God, God sees everything that we do. God sees everything good and bad. If we do it, if we believe God to be God, if we believe him to be omnipresent, which means there's no spot that he's not, then if we do it, he sees it. And at some point, there's going to be a day of reckoning. We're going to have to deal with whatever it is that we did. To T-Tan Renee said, she said he couldn't clean it up. She said David's broom had too many straws. He couldn't clean that up. I'm with you. I feel you on that one. Charlotte Child says yes. So Nathan comes with the word from the Lord and a summary. And what he says is, I know what you did. And because you did what you did, I got to punish you. Because he whom the Father loves, he has to chastise. And he scourgeth every son. It would be parental child abuse to see your child commit an infraction and not discipline the child for what the child has done. Right? But what God said to David is, David, you did your mess in private, but I'm gonna do my thing publicly. I'm not. Y'all can go read it. What he did, what he said he was gonna do it to him. He said he's gonna let his wives got all in public and all this kind of stuff, right? And immediately, what David did, David turned around and David repented. Once he realized the mistake he made, David repented. He repented. He didn't play with that. The Bible says David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto him, David, the Lord has put away your sin. Thou shalt not die. Now that seemed like that would have been good. That would have been that should have been a sigh of relief. Like, whew, I'm not gonna die. Good. I'm straight. I'm gonna make it. But what happened in verse 14 kind of messed it up, because he said, howbeit. He said, because this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies because of this deed. Thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. In other words, you gave the enemy something to talk about. You know what? People can talk all they want, but if it's not true, then it's really not ammunition. I know it's kind of, in our judicial system, it's a little different nowadays, because it seems as though in these days we have to prove, we're guilty, and then we have to prove our innocence. But that's not how it works with God, if you know, if you did it right, if God will, he'll cover them. If you know, that's why he says if you repent and if you turn away from your sin, he's faithful and just to forgive you. Certain things he'll do for you if you do the right thing, right? And if your name is good, enemy don't have anything to say about you. God's name had been good up to this point, but now God has chosen a man, David, after his own heart, put him in position. But now the rumors have gotten out that God chose somebody that couldn't even keep it in his pants, that's sleeping with somebody else's wife, that had a child, that had the man set up. You gave the enemy reason to blaspheme. Therefore, the child that is born unto you, that child shall surely die. Yeah. The only son you have, I'm going to take his life. Listen, all of us have had something to die in our lives. Every last one of us. And what's more challenging is to have to watch that someone or something die. Think about what's some of the things that we've had to watch die. We've had to watch some people die. People, had to, they called me literally on the phone because, they got this technology now where you can do FaceTime. And I purposely don't want an iPhone because I don't want people just randomly calling me on, it's just a little invasive if you ask me. But, if it's somebody I'm cool with, I don't mind doing it. But anyway, we did the FaceTime the other day and we got a chance to witness them taking my little sister. And I say my little sister because she's my baby. That's my little girl, my little sister. I had to watch her be taken off of life support and watch her fade away. Watch her son hold her hand while that was going on, pleading with his mama to wake up so that they wouldn't stop working on her. So we watch people die. Nicole said we watch relationships die. Yeah. We watch people die. We watch plants die. We watch pets die. I mean, I had a friend recently. She had a pet that had for a long time, and cat had to have certain types of surgeries and had a lot of, a lot of diseases that humans have, and she had to watch it die. Relationships die. She just said that dreams. So many of us have had dreams die. Careers, we've watched them by one decision. One bad decision caused dreams and things to happen in our lives that die. And sometimes I think we can digest it better when things die quickly. In March of 2022, when my mother passed away, by the time I found out about it, she was already gone. It was a shock, but she was gone. And I didn't know how to process it. It messed me up. I couldn't figure quite out. She died quickly. It wasn't, I don't think it had to happen. If you haven't shared this, please share it. I don't think it had to happen, but I didn't have to watch her suffer. We didn't have to watch her, go through a long, being hooked up to machines. So sometimes I think we can digest it when things die quickly. And it's easier when we see things or people die peacefully, right? Like, when somebody has, had the blessing of living an old age, and never been sick or never been, just got old and died peacefully, died in their sleep with no suffering. I mean, we can digest that. We can take that. Or even when, there's a breakup in a relationship. Nicole just talked about relationships a minute ago. When there's a peaceful breakup because maturity spoke, right? Or you just came out to a resolution that the relationship was not healthy. You can break up amicably. You can handle that. But when you must watch something that you've birthed or something that you've invested in or something that you loved die a slow death, that can be a painful process, especially when you prayed. Now, in around, what was it, March of 23, when my father had his heart attack, immediately the Holy Spirit came to me. It's sick immediately and said, this sickness is not unto death. I mean, I had a peace and a calm about me. I mean, a really real peace and a calm. Even though they told me my father had slipped in and out of cardiac arrest 4 times, you know, I could have got a flight the same day. I told him don't make the flight until the next day because I had a peace about myself. I felt peaceful. I knew that this sickness was not unto death, and I prayed all the way. Walked in the hospital, saw him connected to all these machines, right? All these machines. But I knew something in my spirit just told me that this wasn't the end of it all. And 2 or 3 days later, after Daddy had 13, 14 IVs in him, right? And people started counting them out. And these nurses started coming up to me and they're blaspheming, talking about your daddy might not ever be the same. And all, girl, I'm like, girl, if you don't shut up talking to me. But anyway, a couple of days later, my daddy, now he's hooked up to all these machines, right? But all of a sudden, that left leg starts sliding. And it starts moving it towards the edge of the bed. And when I came in, I'm like, whoa. My mom was like, James, he's trying to get out of the bed. Now he's he's under in a coma, medically induced coma. But all of a sudden, he got his leg. He starts moving it to the left, trying to get out because he still had a will to live. So when I walked in the room, T-Tay and Renee, I got my phone playing. I'm like, come from a poor family. I'm singing to him, didn't have much. And all of a sudden, his head started turning towards the music. But the Lord been good to me. I'm singing to him, trying to get him. Come from, I'm singing it because I'm feeling this thing, right? And his head starts turning. Now he ain't came out yet, but he's showing us signs of life, right? Because and we prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and then on that 5th day, when I'm getting ready to go home, I'm getting ready to go back to Atlanta. I walk in the room because I'm talking to him like he's still there. I'm talking to him, right? And all of a sudden, I said, "Daddy, I'll be back next week." And Daddy did this right here. Eyes still closed. What? I almost lost it at that moment, boy, because I knew he was on his way back. He had a will to live. I prayed and I saw results. My prayer produced. My prayer produced. But Patty Lane, when I walked in the room with Candace the other day, when I walked in the room, I felt like she heard me. On my way there, I prayed. I was talking to God. I'm wrestling with God. I'm contending with God. I'm saying, God, why I got to do it? Why somebody else? Why does it have to be somebody else? And I felt like when I walked in the room, I was going to call her name and she was going to get up because I felt like in her spirit, she heard me. I felt like she heard me. But when I called her name, she didn't wake up. She didn't wake up. Now, they told me when she came in, her blood pressure was like super low. And while I was there, the blood pressure went up. And by the end of the night, it was up pretty, 130. It was doing pretty good. They air flighted her, took her to another hospital. And I'm praying, Mike. And I'm praying, man. And I'm like, Lord, please fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. And they said, well, these next 72 hours are going to be critical. Because if she doesn't respond in 72 hours, then she's gone. And so I prayed, and in the text, David was praying, and anybody that knows anything about David, it's not like David was praying. Nicole, what you gonna do with that shoe? It's not like David was praying to a stranger. David had a very intimate relationship with God. You Psalm 23. You remember David be on the hillside, start singing love song like, Lord, you're my shepherd, and I shall not want. He just started singing songs. You make me lay down in green pasture. I mean, just all kind. He had all kind of songs he would sing because he had an intimate relationship with the Lord. Therefore, God had chosen him, and he had witnessed God. I mean, he had prayed, like the time he ran up on a lion. He prayed, God showed up. Ran up on a bear, prayed, God showed up. Ran up on Goliath, prayed, God showed up. So he had seen his prayers produce. God had delivered David on several occasions. So if David is praying, it kind of makes sense that David would pray because he had seen his prayers produce. That's why he had the kind of fuel he had for the faith that he possessed because of what he had seen in the past, right? Yeah. Because of what he had seen in the past. He knew what God could do. Yeah. And that's really ought to be motivation for us whenever we start dealing with the next trial. Because let me just drop this one on you for free. If he did it in the past, I'm just of the sneaky suspicion that he'll do it again. So when David prays, he has the fuel for his faith comes because David is saying, why wouldn't, I mean, think about it. Why wouldn't David believe that God wouldn't answer his faith based on what he had done in the past? So I honestly believe, Tanisha, that David thought he could change God's mind. And I think there are times when we think just because we repent that we can change God's mind. I remember Mama, I hope my mama ain't listening. Well, she can't. I'm too old now. She's old too, so she can't whoop me now. I'm talking about my stepmom. My stepmom raised me. I call her mama too. But I remember a time we were living in St. Louis, Missouri, Tanisha. And, my sister and I used to stay at home by ourselves while our parents were at work. Ain't nothing worse than doing something that you knew was wrong. And you had to call your parents and tell them what you did. And then they threaten you and tell you about the whooping you're going to get when they come home. I'm probably the only one that ever got it. I only got a couple of whoopings, but I remember this one specifically. So I was prepared for this whooping. I ain't gonna lie. I put on about 2 or 3 pairs of underwear. I put on a pair of short pants. I put on a pair of jeans because I'm just thinking mama gonna come straight through the door. And as soon as she come through the door, I'm gonna get this spanking, get this over with. But I'm gonna pad this. I'm not gonna take this spanking, right? But I was thinking, because what she did was when she came home, she didn't spank me right away. We went to the mall. Y'all put on the light layers of clothes. 6, it was 3, about 5 at least. I don't know if it was 6, but it was at least 5. But we went to Jamestown Mall in Florissant, Missouri. I never will forget. We went because she took me to the mall. I forgot the name of the store. It might have been Sticks, Bear, and Fuller and all that kind of stuff. Stay on the story right now, Charlotte. I'm on my story. You trying to preach my text? I'm gonna preach it in a minute. But anyway, I'm in the store. And I'm trying on pants. So I go in the store and I go in the dressing room, try the pants on. So when I come out, she wants me to raise my shirt up a little bit so she can check the waist. Well, when she checks the waist, she sees that extra layer of short pants, right? She's like, why you got extra shorts on? I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't even think of a good, don't you have to apologize. I just be joking. Y'all think I'm just joking for real. But I know you had to get it out, but she saw that extra layer of because and I'm thinking that by my behavior I'm being good and I'm kind of acting contrite and I'm kind of thinking that she might have changed her mind that she wasn't gonna spank me now, but when she saw those short pants, I don't know if it reminded her or what, but she ain't say nothing. But when we got back to the house, 5031 Trail Bend Road, right? I was 9 years old, but I still remember that address, 5031 Trail Bend. I hope somebody don't live there now and somebody gonna have come visit their house. But anyway, we got back to the house. And I got that spanking. She didn't change her mind, and neither could David change God's mind. But I believe that he thought he could change God's mind. So what he did was, you got whoopings. I can't even imagine you getting whoopings. Yeah. But anyway, I think what he thought was he could change God's mind. So what he did was he prayed with expectancy. And I want to ask you all a question. This is going to be kind of interactive now. Those that are listening, those who are listening, Charlotte, T-Tan, Renee, Patty Lane, all of you all, JT Hump, who all that are watching right now, I want to ask you a question. Do you think praying with expectancy can cause a person to become anxious? Do you think a person who prays in expectancy? Patty Lane said she hid under the bed. Yeah, you're gonna come out eventually. Did you still get your whooping? By the time you showed up, Lisa Smith, I appreciate you for coming in. Do you think praying with thank you. Tiffany Joy said yes. Tanisha, the question is, do you think praying with an expectancy can cause a person to become anxious? Tiffany Joy said yes. Tanisha Mazik said at times. Tamia White said I do. Yes. Let me see what Patty Lane says. I do. We expect God to answer our prayers because we expected it, even if it wasn't his will. Okay. T-Tan Renee said, yes, it can, but we do not have to become anxious. Keyword have to be. Elder Lisa Smith says, yes, definitely. Okay. Oh, yeah. Y'all are talking to me tonight. I like that. Okay, good. So here it is. Here's a definition of anxious. This is a definition I want to use. Definition of anxious. Where is it at? Here it is. Definition of anxious. It's wanting something very much, but typically with a feeling of unease. You want something real, real bad. So when you pray, sometimes, you know, we want something so bad, right? We want it so bad that we expect God to do it. And if he doesn't do it, and now let me do it this way. Now, because we live in this, you know, name it and claim it generation, you know, this prosperity preacher messed some of y'all up so bad. Now we live in this society now that what we call the unseen as seen, you know, that my faith is going to deliver it, right? Like Mark 11:24, you know, the scripture says this. It says, therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and ye shall have them, right? And then you got scriptures like so when we start reading scriptures like that, then we think we can say it, and then all of a sudden we're gonna see it. You know, it's kind of like illogical from the standpoint. It's like me saying I want to be a doctor and I'm gonna be a doctor, but I'm not even good at science. So my major was not, you know, it wasn't nothing to do with biology, and I didn't go to medical school, you know, but just because I Googled a couple of symptoms, does that qualify me to be a doctor? No, it does not qualify me to be a doctor. So just because I say it doesn't always mean that I'm going to seize it, right? Okay, I like that, Alicia Milton. Alicia Milton said it's almost like it's a sense of entitlement because he's done it for us before, right? And so when we operate with the act like you got it before you get it and all this kind of stuff, I like it. It sounds good in theory, but at the end of the day, I still got to go through to get where I'm trying to get. Because see, God, we operate in a chronological time, right? Everything that we do is regulated by a clock. It's restricted by a calendar. You know, we make times and dates and schedules and all. God don't do that. God is already at the end and sees the beginning at the same time, right? He sees us go through. I said this last week. He sees us go through. He sees us groan through. But while we're groaning through, I'm talking about groning, while we're groaning through, he's already seen us groan. I'm not trying to get in your business, cuz I promise you. But that's what we do. We have this, this hocus pocus genie in a lamp mentality to think that once we pray, God is supposed to automatically do what we say or what we ask him to do. And here it is, T-Tan Renee. Some of us don't even have clean hands and a pure heart. Did I say that? I think I did. Yeah. Some of us don't even have clean hands and a pure heart, and then have the nerve to have an attitude when God doesn't do what we asked him to do, or have the nerve to get anxious when God doesn't do what we asked him to do. Based on his history, I believe David thought that if he honestly prayed and made his petition, that God would grant him his petition. Let's talk about this anxiety thing. Let's talk about being anxious, right? Because Bible says, Philippians 4, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request unto God. Don't be anxious, but just pray and petition and thank him. We thank him for the opportunity to pray. I'm thankful for the right mind to pray. There's so many folk right now that don't even have the right mind to pray, right? I'm thankful just to be cognizant enough to ask him. And I'm almost ahead of myself. So David prayed, but not only did he pray, but he fasted and prayed, right? He fasted and prayed. And we want to notice a couple of different things. Number one thing we want to notice is we want to know David's posture in prayer, his posture in prayer. The scripture says he fasted and went in and lay up on the earth. Now, the elders of his house arose, went unto him, tried to raise him up from the earth, but the scripture says, but he would not. So he had a particular posture in prayer. Now, I saw something on the internet today that somebody was trying to talk about, did they teach you in the West to put your hands together when you pray? But we prayed. Listen, God ain't concerned about the posture of prayer. He's more concerned about the practice of prayer. Because there are times when I couldn't even close my eyes. I was riding down 285 and there was a car coming in my lane and I thought that car was going to take me out. But I said, Lord, have mercy. And all of a sudden, what could have happened didn't happen. I prayed and God wasn't concerned about my posture of prayer. God was only concerned about the practice of prayer. And you better, that's a whole nother sermon. But anyway, we're talking about the posture of prayer. But here it is. What we want to also know is how long did he practice praying? Scripture says he fasted and went in and lay up on the earth. How long? He laid up on the earth all night. And he followed this formula. He fasted, he prayed, and he pushed away the plate. And here the question is for you. What do you do once you prayed for something and you're waiting on God to answer? That's a question I want to. I really would like an answer. I really would like an answer. And you know what? I'm gonna challenge all of you all in the audience. And if you have not shared this yet, go ahead and hit that share button. Say y'all check it out. Or text and say this is good. Say something. But I want you to answer this question right quick. I want you to answer this question. What do you do once you have prayed for something and you're waiting on God to answer? What do you do? Do you sit back like it's on the way? Do you move on as though you know it's going to happen, or you don't believe it's going? The question is, do you become anxious? And if you do, okay, I like your answer, Patty Lane. Patty Lane said if you pray about it, what you need to do is let it go. I like that. Trust his will. Avery Thompson, I like that. But here's the question: do you ever become anxious? And when you become anxious, does the anxiousness ever turn into anxiety? Because little do we know, so many people that we interact with on a daily basis are dealing with anxiety disorders. Because anxiety disorders are the most common kind of mental disorder, and it affects an estimated 4% of the global population. Literally 301 million people in 2019 were affected by anxiety disorders. And this number increased 55% between 1990 and 2019. How much has it increased since then? We've had a pandemic. We've endured, I ain't gonna call it, I don't get into politics. We've endured a lot. Let's just say it that way. Oh, here are my challenges. I meant to do the challenge. That was my challenge. Can we do something tonight? Let's do something. Let's speak in personal. Let's speak in I terms instead of we terms. I'll do we terms as I'm teaching. But if you all talk, don't say we do this, say I do. Because I don't want to hear, because I think sometimes, misery loves company, or we don't like to do things alone. I talked about that earlier. Sometimes we don't like being alone. So we mask what we do by saying we do. Right? We do this, we do that. Now, what do you do? I want to know what you do. That way people can learn from what you do. That's my goal with the comments, with our conversation. I don't think I have the right or wrong answer, but I do think sometimes we have relevant answers. And if my answer doesn't fit, somebody in the comments or somebody in the audience, they might have something that fits, right? So let's keep going. In the United States, an estimated 19% of adults aged 18 or older had an anxiety disorder in the past year. That's crazy. And 27% of the people who need treatment actually receive it. Do y'all realize that? Because see, we take this whole, I can say we, y'all can't. I don't care, whatever, y'all. I'm sorry. But anyway, we take this whole mental health thing for granted because, we think that when somebody got to be touched, they got to be in a mental asylum, or they got to be on medication, or getting crazy pills, getting a crazy check. Ain't that how we said back in the day? Getting a crazy check or whatever else, because that's what we consider to be mental illness. Yeah. But there are several causes of anxiety. One cause of anxiety is genetics. Genetics. I mean, genetics, family history, having biological relatives with anxiety or other mental disorder. That's genetics. Another one is psychological. Psychological factors can be the cause of of uh, anxiety, anxiety disorders. Like, for instance, being a childhood, if a child is shy or feels distressed, or a child feels nervous in new situations, you have to kind of coach them through that situation, because it can produce a certain level of anxiety. Another one is developmental factors. Developmental factors such as life events, exposure to stressful or negative events, such as, here it is, as the death of a loved one. That can create anxiety. Or ongoing worry about finances. You're trying to figure it out, but knowing that God already worked it out, but you're still trying to figure it out. Those things can help to contribute to anxiety. Personality. Some personality types are just more prone to anxiety disorders. All right. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Chastity? I haven't seen you in a long time. Let's see what Lori said. Lori said, I have been anxious at times regarding matters. As I prayed, God showed me my position, and I have moved out place. Okay. Then I have to repent. That's good. And we're going to get to that in a minute. Good point, Lori. And Lori, y'all, Lori is a survivor and a celebrity. Lori's one of my sponsors and also one of our followers. But Lori was on Les Brown's show getting interviewed a couple of weeks ago. So one of these days, she might grace the intellectual stew with she might want to check now, because now she's been on Les Brown's show, and y'all know Les is that dude when it comes to motivational speaking and all those things. So Lori, I love Lori to death. Like, whenever I want to bounce something off somebody, I will give Lori a call. All right. So yeah, turn that energy to something positive. Absolutely. So here it is. Now, let's talk about the symptoms and the patterns of anxiety. Some of the symptoms and patterns of anxiety. Trouble concentrating or making a decision. That's a pattern or a symptom of anxiety. Feeling irritable or tense or restless. That's a sign of or pattern of anxiety. Experiencing nausea. I can't talk. Experiencing nausea or abdominal stress. That's a sign of anxiety. Having heart palpitations, sweating, trembling, or shaking. Trouble sleeping, having a sense of impending danger or panic or doom. All of these are signs or symptoms or patterns of anxiety. And the events that were going on in David's life could have contributed to causing him to develop anxiety. Because watch this. Because while he was waiting, I asked y'all the question. Everybody, some of y'all answered it, some of you all didn't. What do you do while you're waiting on God to answer your prayer? While David was waiting and he was hoping, but waiting and hoping were having a wrestling match. Because he was waiting on something that God had already said he wasn't going to do. Right? Yeah, he was waiting on something because God had already said that your son or that child that you had, the thing that you produced is going to die. I'm going to kill it. It's going to die. But still, David said, I'm going to change his mind. So he's hoping. But while he's hoping, hope is having a wrestling match with waiting. Yeah, he was hoping despite what he heard. And this is another question I want to ask, because he's at a certain point, does this type of faith leak over into delusion? Was this faith or was it delusion? Was David being delusional by asking God to do something that God had already said he wasn't going to do? Because listen, when you have to watch something die slowly, hoping things turn around, the longer it's not dead, the longer it stays alive, it heightens your hope that that thing that's dying still might live. Y'all missed that. I'm going to say that one more time. The longer something that you're watching die, dies, something you're watching, excuse me, when you have to watch something die and it's dying slowly, the longer it takes to die, the more your hope heightens, because you think that if I can just make it one more day, if he can just make it one more day, doom hadn't come yet, death hadn't come yet. I still got a chance. Breath is still in my body. Yeah, I got a chance. But if God said it's gonna die, it's gonna die. It is what it is. Now, like I told you earlier, when my father had his heart attack, he told me this sickness is not unto death. But when I saw my sister, Patty Lane, I couldn't get. He didn't give me an answer. But in the text, God already said the boy was going to die. So here's a question that I ask you all. Here's the question I have, so y'all said that his faith was delusion. Is that what those yeses are for? That his faith was delusion? One of the church would challenge that. They probably would try to challenge that with, but who cares what they challenge? Anyway, so for me, it depends on. Let me see what T-Tay and Renee. I'm gonna put the phone up in a minute, y'all. I'm almost an hour in. Okay, for me, it depends on. I am either anxious or I'm at peace. If after I pray, I am anxious, I turn my prayers to Lord. I believe, but I need you to help my unbelief. Ooh, church lady, I like that answer. Okay, I like that. Yeah. All right. So, but let me ask a question. If you pray and you think it's a delusional prayer, especially what David did, was David praying amiss? In James 4:3, he said, "You ask and pray and receive not because you pray because you ask amiss." In other words, what James was saying, there's certain things that you pray for that God is simply not going to grant because you didn't ask in the right spirit. In other words, you're praying amiss. Was David praying amiss based on the fact that God had already told him that the child was going to die? So should we stop praying? No, don't stop praying. But that's a good question, though. But now, see, for me, that would be a rhetorical question. But I'm gonna let the people in the audience answer that question. But no, don't ever stop praying. Don't ever stop praying. Right. But here's the thing: when you pray, okay, I'm gonna get there in a minute. You almost got me there. I'm almost ready. I'm gonna put a pin right there, Patty Lane, and I'll be back to it in a minute. All right. So, and here the question is. And here's another question because y'all answered the one about was David's prayer delusional? But let me ask you this question: do you all think, and I'm gonna give you all a little time to answer this, do you all think there are times that our desires are delusional because they're not in the will of God? Okay, that's good. Tiffany Joy, I appreciate you for your transparency. Tiffany says, still learning to pray for God's will to be done. It's hard, though. And that's the thing, recognizing his will. See, there's a twofold process in that. First of all, you recognize his will, but then number two, you accept his will. Does that make sense? It's one thing to recognize it, but it's another thing to accept it. David recognized it because of what he heard. He repented. He said, Lord, I've sinned against you. I'm sorry. He recognized his will, but David didn't want to accept his will. What David wanted was David wanted God to spare the child's life. But guess what? God didn't do it. Chastity said, yes, there are times that our desires are delusional. Why? Because they are not in the will of God. David wanted God to spare the God's life. So we notice a couple things about David, right? We noticed a couple different things. We noticed his posture in prayer. We noticed how long he practiced prayer. We saw some of the patterns of anxiety. But here's another thing, T-Tay and Renee, we saw the persistence of David's prayer. David prayed how long? All night. But not only did he pray all night, but David obviously prayed how long? For 7 days. Because the scripture says in verse number 18, it says, and it came to pass that on the 7th day that the child died. That's what it says. So during that whole time, while that child was sick, whether he had fever or whatever happened, however God struck him with his sickness, For those 7 days, David wouldn't eat. David stayed on his face. He was inconsolable. No one could get him up. He was just on his face and he was praying. So until the 7th day, he prayed. And I believe that David had come to the resolve that whatever the results were, he would be okay with them. You know why? Because he kept praying. See, some of us stop praying because we don't see the results that we wanted in a timely fashion, right? Because we think that God's time is on our time. Like God don't set his stopwatch according to our schedules. He just don't do it like that. God, God, in fact, God don't even move in the chronos. God don't move at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 5:30 and April the 5th. And God don't move like that. God moves in the kairos. God moves in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. When his sovereign will says that he's ready to move, that's when God begins to move. And if he had not chosen to move, so here's the question. And that's the thing about it. David kept praying 7 days, all night, all day. He's on his face. He's praying, but he's praying and he's not getting results. But here's the question. Did David's prayer fail? Because the child died. The thing he was, good you talking about. T10 Renee says, see, his ways are not our ways. So you talking about Isaiah 55:8, where it says his ways are not our ways because his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And okay, yeah. So David prayed, but my question is, did his prayer fail because the child died? The thing that he was hoping wouldn't happen happened. So his prayer didn't produce. See, we perceive, I'm talking about us, we perceive prayer as failing when our prayer doesn't produce. We perceive our prayer as failing when we aren't cool with the results. I believe David was cool with the results, but he kept on praying. What you say? Look, hold on. How come his prayer didn't fail if it didn't produce the result that he was hoping for? His prayer. Okay, yeah. Wait a minute. Y'all keep telling me he prayed that God would save his son. God didn't do it. And you mean to tell me he didn't? Huh? Okay, y'all know I'm being facetious, right? See, it's real faith. This is real faith, Christy, Lady Fly. It's real faith when you can pray and whatever the results are, you cool with. You're saying, you know what, God, this is my desire. I would that you would do it this way. Nevertheless, that's why, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he had, he knew what he had to do. He was about to go to the cross. He prayed. He said, Lord, I really don't want to do this, but nevertheless, not my will, but thine will be done. I preached a sermon one time called A Conversation Between a Father and His Child, because I believe in that moment between nevertheless and thy will, God said, I got you. And Jesus was cool with the results. See, it's usually the time a person would break down when they watched what they prayed for die. Because especially when a piece of you dies with what died. I honestly feel like when my sister passed, a piece of me, because that's my sibling, that was my blood sister, no matter what I heard, because Mama used to call and talk and, say this and that. Got to pray for your sister, all that kind of stuff. But she was still my sister. And when you have to watch, when you watch what you pray for die and something inside of them dies, something inside of them, piece of you dies with them. Watch this. That's an entry point for depression. Remember this. I told you this earlier tonight. Remember this. Every emotion, hear me well when I say this. Every emotion needs a body. Every emotion. And because every emotion needs a body, it's trying to find someone to attach to. And what they do, especially negative emotions, they find, you know, uh, in that moment, and we're talking about, mental health, right? And mental health, you know, when you're mentally healthy, when your brain is presented with a scenario or an idea, um, it's looking for something, it's trying to make a good decision in that moment, right? And so when a negative emotion, a host is looking for a host, that's right, Sister Milton, Alicia, I say Sister Alicia Milton. That's right. It's looking for a host because it needs a negative something to attach to. You wonder how you went like having a good day, and then all of a sudden you were presented with a negative emotion. Now your whole day is messed up in the day, but 9 o'clock in the morning, how did it work? Because when that negative emotion came to you, rather than you saying, I rebuke that, that's what church folks say, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, or the postman says, return to sender, whatever you need to do in that moment when you are presented with that negative emotion. In that moment, you have to reject that negative emotion. You got to reject that negative emotion. How do you reject that negative emotion? What you do is you replace negative thoughts with good thoughts. That's what you do. You run instead of saying I'm broke, and I do it sometimes. I have to watch my mouth. I really do. I have, and I'm glad for accountability partners in my life that when I do find myself talking negatively or something of the sort, I'm thankful in that moment that I have accountability partners that tell me, no, you're not broke. You just in between blessings, or you just financially in struggle right now, or all those types of things. They try to console me by telling because when you start speaking negative thoughts, there's power in your words, right? Don't mean and those negative emotions, like I said earlier, they need a body. They need a body. So be careful how you when you start having those negative thoughts, because those negative thoughts become your actions. You spend and it'll mess your whole day up. I've been tricked so many times. I ain't gonna lie to you. I wrote a whole book about it. I wrote a whole book about it, because I was stuck in a negative place for so long. Y'all, I'm doing a real launch on my book first week in September. This is a copy of it, Stuck on the Couch. And while I was stuck on that couch, I was for an extended period of time. I had a bunch of negative thoughts. They kept coming, but thankfully I had the Holy Spirit also that would come and remind me of who I was and would replace some of those negative thoughts, and you start having, when they start, when the enemy comes, he starts reminding you of your past. A good thought would tell you, remind him of his future. You let him know, hey, you looking at my past, but I'm looking at your future. Your future's in the lake of fire, So you got to, so you replace those negative thoughts with positive thoughts whenever you're presented with negative thoughts, rather than giving those negative thoughts and giving those negative thoughts a body. Don't be, in other words, grandmama never say it like this, Tiffany Joy. I know y'all up in Detroit, y'all don't use the kind of language we do in the South, but grandmama say something like this: don't let the devil use you. Don't let the devil use you. So when your brain, when your mind is presented with that negative thought, don't you give in to it. Don't give in to those negative thoughts. Instead, replace that negative thought with a good thought or a positive thought. Second thing you want to do when that negative thought presents itself. You said y'all country up there? You so funny. With everybody, and you're right, because most people from the north came from the south anyway. But y'all got up there and y'all start hanging. Y'all got a little bit different dialect, and y'all can talk a little bit better. So y'all fix up. All right. So first thing is replace those negative thoughts. Second thing you want to do is move forward in your own timing. Listen, no one can tell you how to grieve. It's unfair. It's unfair. Nobody can tell you how you are supposed to grieve. It's not going. They can't tell you how you're supposed to feel, right? When David was laying on the earth and he was grieving before his child passed away, they thought, man, get up. No, you're the king. You don't want people to see you on the ground like this. Get up off of your do nothing and go do something, right? And they'll tell you all this time, how you're supposed. People tell. I had somebody tell me, Tiffany Joy and T-Tay and Renee too. I ain't gonna lie, because I know you pray for me, T-Tay. So I know you pray for me. So you had to pray for me the other day, because somebody told me the other day when I told her my sister passed, they put two words, God's will. I almost cussed. I cussed in my spirit, but I didn't cuss to them because I really wanted to. But they said God's will, because I wanted to say, okay, was it the providential will or was it the permissive will? And you mean to tell me God meant for my daughter to die, my sister to die at 34, and you meant, so I really wanted to understand the providential will versus this permissive will, because because under the providential will, according to Psalm, 3 So I struggled with that, right? Because you have certain people. I had somebody else tell me, they said, I know how you feel. Really? Really? You lost your sister at 34 that you didn't have, that you didn't spend as much time with as you thought. Yeah. And people can be so insensitive while a person is grieving, and the grief doesn't always start after the person passes away. So we grieve things that are still alive. We grieve relationships that we have been in a marriage for 4, 5, 10, 15 years, and then you get a divorce. There's going to be a grieving period. Even if you were in a relationship for 10 months and that person became a part of your community, and then all of a sudden your community changes, there's a grieving period, and everybody cannot tell you how you are supposed to grieve. The audacity of you to think you can. In other words, who died and left you God? Yeah. And you know what? It's okay, T-Tay and Renee. It's okay, Tiffany Joy, that if a scenario, if a scenario is presented to you that you don't have the answer, it's okay to say that I don't know. Be quiet. Hush your mouth. Sometimes your presence is the present. Just because sometimes being there is enough. I remember when my mother passed away. I had a very dear friend of mine at that time came through because they knew me. They understood, because I'm an introvert. So I'm the type person that don't really want to be around nobody, but I want somebody around me all the time because my love language is touch. But I'm really like, you here now, but I'm like almost like, but what time you leaving? So but that person knew me, and they were like, I said, well, they said I'm coming over. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. They're like, no, I'm on the way. Shut up. And they came, and when they came, it wasn't a whole lot of talking. It wasn't a whole lot of communication other than just being there. Because sometimes in situations where you're grieving, or you're waiting on an answer, or you got the answer that you didn't really want, but you got to live with the results and be cool with the results. Sometimes you just need somebody just to be there. Yeah. People think you ought to respond a different way. No. And see, the thing was, when the child died, the people around David knew that the child died. But they were like, if he acted like that while the child was alive, then how's he going to act when he finds out the child is dead? But when David saw how they were acting and how they were responding, David asked them a question. He said, is the child dead? And they were like, yeah, King, he's dead. And David's response was different. It wasn't like you would have thought, especially since he had been laying on the earth for 7 years 7 days. What am I talking about? For 7 days and wasn't eating. You would have thought David would have had a nervous breakdown and reached this existential breaking point. But I just told you a minute ago, you move forward in your own timing. David was ready to move forward in verse number 20, because verse 20 said, then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself, changed his apparel, went into the house of the Lord, worshiped, Worshiping while wounded. Worship came into his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. He moved forward in his own time. How was he able to move forward in his own time? I'm going to tell you how he was able to move forward in his own time. And I'm almost done. This is how David was able to move forward in his own time. It was because he accepted God's will. If we ever get to the point, place, and posture, when we get to the level of maturity where we are able to accept God's will, guess what? We can move forward. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? If we ever get to the place where we can accept God's will, then and only then can we move forward. Y'all ain't hearing what I'm talking about tonight. That's the problem. Y'all trying to figure it out. The reason why some of y'all can't move forward, some of us, is because we don't want it. Things didn't turn out the way we wanted them to turn out. So because they didn't turn out the way we wanted them to turn out, then we think that God's fixer is broke or whatever it is, or but he didn't do it the way we, because a lot of us don't ask God to do something that we don't think we can do. If we can't do it, we don't think God can do it. So I don't understand why there would be a need for a God if we think we can do everything that he can do, which is like erroneous and kind of crazy to think something along those lines, right? But nah. So David prayed. I'm not gonna do this service. Y'all leave me alone. David prayed, and God didn't do it. But David was cool with it, and he accepted God's will. And in verse number 22, what David said was, he said, the people went to David because they were kind of confused. And they said, while the child was yet alive, you acted a certain type of way. But why are you worshiping now? Why are you cool with the results now? I mean, what has transpired now that you are cool with the results? And this is what David said to him in verse number 22. He said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and I wept. For I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious unto me that the child may live? But now that he's dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back unto me? Nah, I shall go to him, but he shall not return unto me. In other words, David saying, I can't bring him back, but I can sure go where he is. And how do I go where he is? The only way I can go where he is if I live right? If I do what I'm supposed to do, and if I live right, then when it's all said and done, when time and eternity kiss one another, and God sticks the golden sword in the sand of time, and step across, put one foot on the sea and the other foot on land, and knock off the belt of time, and all that kind of stuff the old preachers used to say. But when that happens, it'll be good. I'm gonna be good. Until then, no. All I can do is what God told me to do, and all I can do at that point is get to a point of maturity where I can just really accept God's will for my life. How many of us are mature enough to accept God's will for our life? Yeah. Who is Stacy's? I missed that part. That's the place. So the question is, did the prayer fail? Nah. You know why the prayer didn't fail? Because David was cool with whatever results, with whatever the results were. And if you and I ever get to the place of being cool with whatever the results were, in other words, you say, Lord, however you choose to bless me, I'll be satisfied. That's a powerful place to be in. What you say? And that's it. It hinges on our spiritual maturity. Yeah. And some of us have not been very mature because we think that we can change God's mind. Or we think that who is Stacey Adams dress shoe? Oh, Stacey Adams for fancy black man. Oh, okay. No, I don't wear no Stacey Adams though. That's old men. That's old men shoes. But you know what? Yeah, them people in Detroit, y'all do dress like that. Well, no, they dress like that in the South too. Let me send my boy this link because I got a special treat for us. But yeah, so that's it. Prayer doesn't fail. Nah. You laugh about those Stacey Adams. Girl, if you see me in some Stacey Adams, please take them off. I ain't wearing no Stacey Adams. I don't even want to wear a Stacey Adams tie, Stacey Adams shirt. I hope is this plagiarism? Is this slander? No, it's not. I'm just it's preference. I don't wear no. I prefer custom made, but I'm in between blessings right now, so I'm not. I don't wear no. I'm not lying. I don't wear no Stacey. I wear Italian nice. I'm trying. No, I don't wear no. I do. No, I ain't wearing no Stacey Adams. No, I ain't wearing no Stacey Adams. Look, but listen, real talk. His prayer didn't fail. His prayer did not fail. God's will was done. Because if you learn later on that David did some amazing things, they don't fail. They just don't line up with his will. Absolutely. She said she rolled on for a laugh. Absolutely. Patty Lane, let's unpack that. They don't fail. They just don't line up with his will. So no, not bougie, just still 52. I'm not 82. I don't want to wear no old shoe. I mean, the shoes be shining. I want real leather, and design. I like those kind of shoes. I kind of like those kind of shoes, right? So that's where I'm at. So you're right. So the question earlier, Tita and Renee, y'all help me on this. Some of y'all seasoned saints, Alicia Milton. Patty Lane asked earlier, she asked, do we stop praying? My answer is no. We don't stop praying. We don't stop praying. We don't stop praying, right? David wasn't wearing no Stacey Adams either. What are you talking about? I'm playing. You don't stop praying. But what you do, Patty Lane, is you get to a point where you're cool with his will. You get to a point where you're cool with his will. And you're saying, Lord, nevertheless. I mean, if all of us could ever get a nevertheless in our spirit, we would be so powerful. So powerful. If we could all get a nevertheless in our spirit, where we actually say, you know what, God, I really wish you would save this. Or God, I really wish you would let this live, or whatever else. I really wish he would. Oh, girl, Tiffany Joy. Girl, you about to make me hold on. Tiffany Joy she got to get one. I see you, Kennard. I'm coming. But I owe you one, Tiffany Joy. She said, though he slay me, I got to give you one. Hold on. You earned it. I haven't given one all night, but there it is.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Yes, sir. That's it right there. She said, though he slay me. If those don't know the rest of that scripture, it says, yet will I trust in him. So that's accepting his will. Hey, listen, I got my buddy, one of my bestest friends in the world, although he don't call me that much no more, but it's all right. We don't have to talk often to know we're friends. But this is my, y'all know what I was about to say. This is my, I'm going to say it but this is my, let me get him on right quick. Dr. Kennard.
My man, James, how you doing?
And Louisville, is it hot up there too?
Man, it's hot as fish grease up here, brother. It's hot. It is definitely hot.
He is from Alabama, so he says stuff like hot as fish grease and all that kind of stuff. But
you take the country out the boy, you can't take the boy out the country.
Well, you show country. I ain't gonna lie, but it's all good though, because you might. I ain't gonna say it because I'm online, but you might. You know exactly what it is. But boy, you crazy. It's crazy. Hey, but listen, what Patty Lane, y'all share this right quick, because y'all we get ready to be blessed right now, because Kennard is a very good great singer, vocalist, comes from a singing family, sings all across the country, pastors there in Louisville, Kentucky. But he's an awesome singer. And I was thinking about this whole thing about David. You just heard part of the lesson, Bush. David accepted the will of God concerning his son. And when they didn't understand, when the people didn't understand, David said, you know what, I can't go. Man, I can't go. I mean, I can't bring my son back to me, but I can go where my son is. Right. And that happens after we live a certain life. We live a life that's in the will of God. And if we believe what we believe, if we believe that we're living with HIV, and I'm not talking about AIDS, I'm talking about heaven in view. if we're living with heaven in view, if we believe that there's life after this, then one of these days, you know, we're gonna if we live right, old folks say one of these mornings, oh Lord, and it won't be long. Look for me and I'll be gone, going up to glory. We don't talk about heaven no more because we talking about money. I get it. But if we still believe those types of things, if we really, I'm online for Lisa. If we really believe the types of things that we believe, then something's gonna happen afterwards. So my sister passed away. I told you about that on the other day. And I wanted to do this show in honor of her tonight, and I titled the show "When Prayer Seems Like It Failed." But I wanted you to come on, and I wanted you to sing a song for my audience. And the name of the song is called "Morning Dove." I'm making a request tonight.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm gonna do, y'all, I'm gonna put my microphone on mute, and I'm actually gonna take my face off because if I do start crying, I don't want nobody to see me crying. So I'm gonna give the floor to my buddy Kennard Bush. I'm telling y'all, if y'all ain't never heard him sing, y'all better check this out. Real talk. Kennard, it's all you, buddy. I'm checking out right now, and bless the people. You can introduce yourself and then do your thing.
Well, you've done that, man. I'm just honored to be on this great podcast with you, doing a great work. And I just want to encourage you, man. Like you said, we're good friends. Good friends don't have to talk every day. And I want you to know I love you. I'm here for you. Even if I can't be physically, I'm here for you. Just a phone call away. But just to sing the song you requested, I like to hear old Harvey Watkins when he said, Lord, you've been so good to me. Lord, I don't know what I would do, but if I just had wings, ooh, like a morning dove, y'all know what I'd do. I would fly away. Everything gonna be all right, and I'm gonna be at rest. Lord, you brought me from such a mighty long way. Oh, you watched over me, Jesus. If you leave, I don't know what I would do. But if I just had wings, like a dove, I would spread them out and I would fly away. Everything gonna be all right, Kirk. One of these old days, we're gonna be at rest. God bless you, my brother. I love you much, man, and I'm praying for you. You my poo-poo too, you know. James and we go back to year 2002, I believe we met, and he is one of my closest brothers, not just a friend. James is a brother. And I love him just like I love my brother Ben, who sings with Drew Hill. We're pretty talented. They got all the talent. They left me what was left. But James, I love you, man. I just want you to know, man, you've been across this river before. Maybe not with your sister, but you've been there before, man. And the same boat that you took across the river before, guess what?
Hello, shoe.
It's gonna hello. You know what I'm talking about? It's gonna tell you on cross.
Yeah, you know what? It's ironic that you brought up our meeting because Kennard and I met. Kennard and my show's focus is mental health.
Okay.
And so Kennard and I met about 02, somewhere around that range. 01, 02, 2001. Okay, and Kennard was going through something that day. Kennard was facing prophetic burnout at that moment. And he was real stressed. And we didn't know each other from a can of paint. We had just met that day. But our spirits were kindred. We automatically connected. And we walked in out because we were staying at the Embassy Suites in Little Rock, Arkansas. Bishop Charles E. Williams had set us all up. We all had our own rooms and everything. But Kennard came and said, suite. We had suites, yeah. Embassy Suites, we had suites. And but it didn't look like it looked now. It looked a whole lot worse now than it used to look. But anyway.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they didn't get But anyway, we went in that room and Kennard, we ain't gonna say cried, we ain't gonna say that, but we wept and we talked,
it's okay.
We prayed. We prayed and I think when we left out of that room, you felt a little bit better than you felt coming in. And
here's the thing, Kirk. When I left out of that room, I knew I had a friend for life because you took the time, Kirk. Everybody else I had conveyed my feelings and where I was at. They didn't give me the advice you gave me, and I cherish that advice till today, man. And I've been able to share it with other preachers across the country. The symptoms of prophetic burnout and what you go through and how you feel, and most of all, how you can overcome it, man. So I thank you just for being who you are, James. You are a special guy, man. Not a funny guy, a special guy. Yeah, man.
We've been friends for about 22 years because of that
man.
one conversation. So, like I said, we might. I ain't gonna look. He tried to get me to counsel him for his when he got married. I almost broke him up, but I don't do counsel. I don't do wedding. I don't do marriage counseling no more. I don't do marriage. Don't ask me ever do your marriage counseling because I'm gonna trouble you. So
hey, man, my wife thinks the world of you, man. In her eyes, you're one of only few guys that she references as my friend.
Well, I think I proved that I wasn't gonna choose sides because I put you through hell during that little time.
Oh, man, wrecked me over the toes, man.
We supposed to be friends. I'm like,
yeah, I didn't like you after that, James.
But we had to be true to. I had to be true to the relationship. I don't play with the marriage thing, but
Absolutely.
I don't. And I ain't want you to play with her if you wasn't ready. And I feel like anything that stands should be able to stand scrutiny. And that's the way I look at it. So I appreciate that. Tiffany said I'm a blessing and a hilarious blessing sometimes too. You so fun. Listen, I got the phone number up. If anybody wanted to call in and talk about the lesson on the night, you're welcome. I'll give you another 5 or 10 minutes or so. I started Kennard, I changed my show time. I used to start at 9, but I wouldn't be getting off till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And sometimes I'll be on a spiritual high. And you know how hard it is to come down at 11 o'clock at night. So I started doing it at 8 o'clock. So I can be through by 10 at the latest. My friend Myra, look at you, so sweet. She said, I knew you were special. Myra, you're the one that's special. Y'all, if y'all hadn't seen the show that I did called You Don't Look Like What You've Been Through, Myra Singleton, click on her picture. She is beautiful. Like how they say it in the South, brutiful. She is brutiful for real. But if you look at her testimony, man, she went to the doctor to get a checkup because she thought she was having sinus issues, right? And she turned out having stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
And bruh, if you look at what she looks like now, she doesn't look like what she's been through. And I'm not saying that just because she's attractive. I'm just saying with her spirit, how she carries herself, how she ministers unto other people who are going through the same things because she's gone through the same thing, right? And I was talking to a pastor friend about that today. So many of us, we don't want to show our wounds. Jesus showed his wounds, but we don't want to show our wounds. Like we some super saints. Oh, these Nick Rose tripped me out, Jack. I ain't gonna lie, I messed up. I done cheated before. I done paid a bill. I done paid a bill late. I done cussed before. You know what I'm saying? I done done a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And if you step on my toe tomorrow, you might get cussed out tonight. In advance, just to give you a little insulation for tomorrow. So I'm under construction forever. And if you see me slipping, hey, do know one thing. The only thing you missing is that blood that's covering me.
Oh yeah, man. We
hold on, I left one. I need one.
We gonna go home, James. We gonna go home, man. I plan
to do one.
Make it heaven my home. I just ain't homesick yet.
Oh Lord.
Oop right there, and I had to get me one in right quick. No, so listen, I appreciate phone numbers. Oh no, you know what? Is anybody trying to call? Because you know what? I forgot to put the turn the phone on. I forgot to put the app up. Good, didn't nobody call, so I missed y'all. If you did call again, like in 3 seconds. If you didn't call, I'm gonna get you on the show. We're gonna have a real conversation, a whole conversation one night, Kennard. Talk about some of your experience.
Stay blessed, man. And listen, but we'll talk, because I want to, when you arrange for your sister, man, make sure I have them.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure, and I'll make much, likewise. I love you back, man.
Take care.
All right, so God bless you, man. Appreciate you, bro. All right, so y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed that treat. Hey, that dude, y'all go pull it up on YouTube when he sings it in a church. Woo, he dumps that. His name, let me put his name in the comments. His name is Kennard. That's a country name in and of itself, ain't it? Kennard. I hope he ain't listening. But my middle name is country too, so it is what it is. Kennard. I'm wrong for that. Y'all pray for me. I'm trying to do better in life. I don't understand why my computer's doing some stupid stuff today. But it's all good. I can't get it to act right. All right, his name is Kennard Bush. I need to buy me a new computer. Listen, if you all want to bless the platform, I'm gonna be doing some traveling here soon. I got to get back and forth to Arkansas a couple of times. Well, not I'm gonna go on once time this month, but I'm going for as soon as they make the arrangements, I'm gonna have to fly out of here and get to Arkansas and be with my family as we go through this grieving period. Pray for my younger sister, my other sister. She has the responsibility of taking care of my other sister's 3 children, which she had been doing. But y'all pray for her. Pray for my grandmother. Pray for her. Pray for my nieces and nephews because they've gone through a lot. They lost their grandmother a couple of years ago, who was raising them at the time, and now they've lost their mother. So I need y'all to really, really, really pray for my nieces and nephews. And like I said, if you want to be a blessing to this platform or to us, the Cash App is right there, the Intellectual Stew. Cash App, the Intellectual Stew. Zelle, that's my phone number there, or PayPal. All those options are available, and we would appreciate anything that you contribute towards the platform. Stay tuned, because this month we will be, September, first Sunday in September, we will be releasing a formal release of Stuck on the Couch. I'm going to do something special here in a couple of weeks. I'm going to have somebody come on that has already read the book, and they're going to interview me. So I'm going to get out of the interviewer seat, and I'm going to get on the interviewee seat, and he's going to ask me certain questions about the book. And I'm going to share I'm going to be transparent. I don't have nothing to hide. And I'm the type person, and I hope y'all take it the right way, but I'm a type person, before I let you kill me, I'll commit suicide. So before I let you talk negative about me, I'll tell on myself. Because whatever I did it, and it's under the blood, and I don't care. So what you going to do? Penalize me for something I already got in trouble for? Man, kick rocks. And that's what I mean on that, for real. And I'm not joking when I say that either, okay? So, yeah, lift us up in prayer. Thank you all. It's been real. I've enjoyed this conversation tonight. I'm enjoying where this platform is going. If y'all continue to go with me, I promise you we're going to grow together. We're going to give you more options of people to come on and talk to. I'm going to all those types of things, right? Because we're growing together. Now, as I always say, and I do mean it when I say it, as I get out of here, hope to see y'all on next week. Probably see you sometime during the week whenever I decide to go live. But in the meantime, I want you to know something. The world is changing. But I have a very specific question. And the question that I have for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night. If you want to bless the platform, I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you all on next week. I love y'all. I really do. Be good.
Intellectual stew with James Kirklin. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
There's a difference between the symptoms of success and the substance of success. And so we can have the symptoms of success and drive a nice car, wear the right clothes, have the right bank account. Those are all symptoms of success. But when the rubber meets the road and it's time for the substance, do we pray together? Do we have those in-depth conversations? Can she read your body language? Likewise, can you read her body language? When she comes home from work and she's had a bad day, if she needs to decompress, do you recognize? Those are the things. You understand what I'm saying? Because I ain't gonna lie, it all sounds good for the gram. The colloquial expressions are great. You know what I'm saying? All that's good, but when you got to go home and look at it with the roller, you wear roller. But when you got to go home and you know what I'm saying, and all that,